XV1. Her critical review is Jordan Maxwell with Sean Stone.
Their goal is quite simply to own the earth, to take every single square inch of land away from all other humans. And then they own the earth. Then they can decide what kind of weather we want and how much water we'll use and carbon dioxide use. They will decide whatever they want to decide because they own the earth. Well, in point of fact, they do not own the earth. They, in fact, do not own anything. But they are, that's why we're told in the mafia, if you want to change the way the mafia works, you better get your own army, pal. And so that's why today everything works the way it does because Americans are too weak any longer to have an army. And the army has given up and going along to get along. And the Joint Chiefs of Staff have said that they will do whatever they're told to do by the politicians because they don't represent the American people anymore. They represent the politicians who are policymakers, who have police behind them. It's really an incredible story when you finally see what caused the civil unrest during the 1860s, the Civil War, and we're seeing it coming again. Another civil war is being brewed right now, and we're watching it happen, and the same thing that happened back then is happening again. But we're not ready for it. We're not ready to back up our claim to sovereignty. We're not prepared for it. Nobody knows what you're talking about, and nobody would even suggest standing up to government and saying, this land is mine and you can't have it. I own it. Because in fact, you don't own it. It's on the fee simple. It's not on the allodial. But there is the biggest problem right there, is the ownership of land. The Secretary of the Interior many years ago, I can't remember his name, but he said the reason why our freedom in America is based on our land management. He was saying that because you have a right to your land, you have a right to your life. And so that's why we are a allodial title. And today, even in Michigan, if you're in Michigan, you can look at your constitution for the state of Michigan, and it says all land in the state of Michigan is held allodial by everyone. But today, they still are on the fee simple because it doesn't matter what you say. They now have changed the law. And so now Americans have been left out in the cold and they have to pay their taxes and pay their rents and pay their bills because that's the way it is. We've been had. And so now they have run out of land because there's only so much land in America, only so much. And every single square inch of land, because America is no longer a republic, it is a confederation of confederates, and it's not the United States of America any longer. We are a corporation called United States. Correct. Corporation. And because it's a corporation, corporations cannot make law. Period. They cannot make a law because they are a corporation. That would be like Coca-Cola coming out and saying all Americans must do this or that. And that's the law. Well, correct. They can't do that because it's just a private company.
Exactly.
The United States Corporation cannot make any laws. They have to have a policy. Well, yes. Any corporation can have its own policy. It's natural. And
let me ask
you have policymakers.
Yeah, let me ask you something. So you mentioned the Catholic Church. Now, we understand the Catholic Church is not the Catholic Church that people think it is. This is not some Christian organization that was designed, to basically help humanity. Think of it as you would understand. Think of it as the continuation of the Roman Empire, turning Roman emperor into the chief pontificate, the Pope, right? The pontiff, the Christed anointed one on earth, who has the keys to heaven and earth, right? But think of it even more as Babylonian, right? Let's connect this now to the Babylonian cult, because if people understand that there's an ancient cult that really masquerades as Christianity and God serving, charity, doing good people, and actually understand that there's a cult that is very dark and has nothing to do with the God of love that people think that they're praising. How can we explain this to people?
Well, to start with, the Pope has said that God owns the whole earth and that God gave it to Jesus. He gave the whole earth and everything on it to his son, Jesus. But Jesus is not here.
Right, but
He's
which God?
busy elsewhere right now. He doesn't have time to mess with us. And so the Pope said he will take over the possession of the earth for Jesus until he comes back, and then he'll give it back to him, supposedly. And so that's why we are under the papal administration of the earth, period. And that's why kings and rulers and princes from all over the world go to the Vatican and get on their knees and kiss the ring of the Pope, the Holy Father who speaks for God. He is the Roman Godfather. And everybody knows it.
Let's be specific, Jordan. God is not what people think this God is. What God are they referring to? What God are they actually worshiping?
The God of the Catholic Church is the fish god Anis. And you've seen that. Have you seen the pictures of the fish god called Anis with the papal headdress?
You mean Anki? They call Anki in the Sumerian Anki, E-N-K-I, Anki, Ia, E-A.
Yeah, N-K, yeah.
Yeah.
But it's actually the fish god of the Babylonian fish god is who the Pope actually represents, the Babylonian fish god. And so that's why he wears that strange hat, because it's a hat worn by the priest of Anis, the fish god. And so we are being led down a fishy path, and something very fishy going on is coming from the Vatican. And the Vatican made a deal with the King of England, because when Rome was the Roman Empire and Caesar ruled all of the Roman Empire as his own. Well, he decided that he wasn't happy with just running the world. He wanted the British Empire under his control. So when he moved his whole armies into England, his center for operations in England for the Roman government was a city called York, England. York, England was a center of power in the UK for Roman Caesars. York, England. Well, we have a New York, and it's called the Empire State. Why? Because it's the one state in which the Roman Empire officially moved into and took over America. And therefore, it was a deal made with the King of England, because they were in York, England, with the Caesar. They made a deal that you control America. America was given to the King of England in a deal, but he has to be paid, and therefore we are under the King of England right now in this country, under a fee simple arrangement. And it's really quite a long story, but most people have never heard the story, and most people don't even know anything about it.
So, trying to understand a little bit more in terms of the cult aspect, because as you know, Jordan, very well, there is there are occult forces within the ruling elite, right? And we see glimpses of it in things like Bohemian Grove rituals, where they're having this weird, Wagnerian worship of a Moloch kind of figure, where they sacrifice a child, to cremate care, as it's called. We're going to burn care, and they sacrifice a mock child. This is like ancient stuff that you would have seen maybe in like the times of worshiping the Moloch figure, or the bull cults. That Moses basically tells the Israelites, you're not supposed to do this anymore, right? So, what are we looking at here? Are we looking at a force that is basically demonic, archonic, that is really behind the control apparatus of the planet, working to enslave them, and then working against a positive force that you could say is exemplified by the spirit of Jesus? Whether or not Jesus, as we understand it, was a real person, the spirit of his teachings and what he represents is certainly there as an embodiment of what we are looking to be as far as our goodness on this planet. Is that really what that there's these two forces that are really at work? You could say the dark and the light that are.
In Egypt, there is a temple, and on the side of this temple in Egypt is written a story. And the story is very, very interesting. It says that Pharaoh was walking along the Nile one day, and above his head was a silver disc. And he looked up and saw the silver disc, and the silver disc talked to the Pharaoh in his mind, telepathically, and it told him, go back to Cairo and take your seat as the king of Egypt and found a new city. And that new city is going to be called Aton.